Hey, what up, everybody? What's up, guys? Coming to you this morning, doing the 2020 mid-year top 10s. This division I'm doing today is my number 12 division in boxing, the 122-pound super bantamweight division. This division, well, basically with the top 10s and the mid-year ones, these should go by pretty quick because not a lot has happened, but the boxing is back. Not a lot has happened the first half of the year because of the coronavirus. But boxing is back. They're slowly moving it back in. So there is things going on and things in the works. So we're going to get right into it at 122 right here, super bantamweight, and see what has been going on so far and what my prediction is for the second half of the year. So let's start with the guys that have dropped out. We got first Guillermo Rigondeaux. He was number 9 coming in. He moved down to 118 in February and won a secondary world title there, so that's why he drops out of the top 10 at 122. He said eventually he wants to come back, but I don't believe that's going to be by the end of the year. I think he's seeking out fights there. He's with the PBC now, so I'm hoping he gets a decent-sized fight at 118, and then maybe next year we'll see him back up at 122, but we'll see. Also dropping out is former world title challenger Franklin Manzanilla. Not really active. He's dropping out because of guys moving into the top 10. And other things. He was number 10 coming into the year, so we'll see if he can find his way back into the top 10 by the end of the year. And now we jump into the top 10, starting with number 10, TJ Doheny. He dropped 6 spots from number 4, by far the biggest drop in, it might be in any division, but definitely here at 122. Doheny in March was looking at bigger fights later on in the year. And right before the pandemic set in, he took on Inuit Baluta, some unknown guy, and lost by an 8-round unanimous decision. He got outboxed and outworked. He was very upset after the fight. He also said he knows what he did wrong, and he's going to be coming back. And he just wants to get back on track and look at the bigger fights. But he has not mentioned rematching Baluta, which I think is a mistake. I think he should fight him later in the year to shake off that fight and that loss. Let everybody know he's a better fighter, but we'll see. I think he could come back and try to jump back in the mix at 122. I think he could fight at 126 going forward. We just got to wait and see, but either way, I think his next fight's probably going to be against some kind of nobody just to stay busy and to get, shake off that loss. So that's number 10, TJ Doheny. Number 9 is Inuit Baluta. He came in March and upset TJ Doheny by an 8-round unanimous decision. He's still not ranked in any governing body at 122 or 126 for that matter, and haven't heard what he's going to do next. I think he's a perfect opponent for one of these other champions who want to just shake off some rust. They could take on a guy who beat TJ Doheny, but I haven't heard anything, any interest from any other guys in the top 10 in Baluta, and I haven't heard Baluta wanting to what he wants to do next. So we'll see what happens. Probably just going to stay busy and get back into the mix at some point. Next, still number 8 is Ronnie Rios, former world title challenger. Rios was ordered by the WBA to take on Brandon Figueroa sometime this year, but just in the past few days, I heard that the WBA is ordering Figueroa to face some nobody to stay, to shake off some rust. And Rios has been ordered to face, or is ordered to fight for the vacant interim WBA title, but I'm not sure who that's going to be. It could be against some nobody because the WBA really wants Rios and Figueroa, or it could be a rematch against Azat Havanassian, who's the current number 1 ranked contender in the WBA. So, gonna wait and see on that. We should find out soon. Rios is with Golden Boy, so they're just getting back on track. We'll see how that goes. Still number 7 is the undefeated WBA regular champion, Brandon Figueroa. Figueroa, as we said, was ordered to fight Ronnie Rios for the WBA title. Now they're giving him a fight in between to shake off some rust. He hasn't fought since November of last year. The guy is a straight nobody. He's gonna fight. Should be an easy knockout win. The PBC just started scheduling things for early August. Is gonna be their first card. So I think we'll see Figueroa back in August or September. He'll probably get a knockout win, and I'm hoping by the end of the year he'll face Ronnie Rios or whoever the interim champion is. Still number 6 is Azat Havanassian, the current WBA number 1 ranked contender and a former world title challenger. Havanassian was supposed to fight on a Golden Boy card. in March or April. That fight got canceled due to the coronavirus. It was just supposed to be a stay busy fight. Not sure if he's gonna do a stay busy fight still. I'm leaning towards that way because nobody really wants to fight Havanassian. But I also think there's a chance he could fight Ronnie Rios in a rematch for the vacant interim title. Or I think there's a possibility he puts his number one contendership on the line against Daniel Roman, the former unified champ. Right now, I think those are outside possibilities, but the WBA could order them because Havanassian is the number one ranked contender, and he earned that spot last September when he knocked out Franklin Manzanilla. So he's very deserving, and I want to see him get somebody good in the ring, but I'm still going to lean towards he's going to stay busy next. But I'm hoping by the end of the year he gets a bigger fight. Next, and still number 5, is Ryosuke Iwasa. He's the current IBF interim champion. He's the former full IBF champion. He's supposed to be, I mean, there was talks of him, and everybody is expecting, myself included, for him to cash in on his IBF mandatory title shot against newly crowned champion Mirajan Akhmadayev. Akhmadayev beat Daniel Roman in January to capture the unified title, and it's supposed to be Iwasa next. That's what the plan was. There was small talks of that between Akhmadayev and Iwasa around February, March. Haven't heard anything since. I still believe that fight's going to happen. I think Iwasa's going to fight Akhmadayev. I think he's got a good chance of pulling off the win, but I personally feel Akhmadayev's going to beat him. But I do think it's going to be a very good fight, and I do think that fight's going to happen before the end of the year. They could throw them in against stay busy opponents, but we'll see how that works. Next, and still number 4, is the undefeated Ray Vargas, the WBC champion. Vargas was in talks with Emmanuel Rodriguez. Well, first off, Vargas signed a new contract with the PBC early in January. Then there was talks about him coming back and facing former Bantamweight champ Emmanuel Rodriguez. The coronavirus set in, so nothing happened. We haven't heard anything. There's also talks about him making his mandatory. Don't know for sure yet. The PBC's just getting cards rolling again in July, so I'm hoping we hear something soon on what Vargas is going to do next. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a stay busy fight, though, because he hasn't fought since July of last year. It's been a year since he threw down, so I wouldn't be surprised if that happened either. Next, at number 3, dropping one spot from number 2, is the reigning WBO champion Emmanuel Navarrete. Navarrete's fought twice already this year. He defended his title for the 5th time in February on the Wilder Fury undercard. Knocked out some Filipino fighter named J.O. Santissima. 11th round TKO, a little bit tougher fight than Navarrete expected. But, solid performance, got the knockout win. Came back in June as part of one of the first guys back to boxing after because of the pandemic. He moved up to 126, took on some unknown fighter, scored a 6th round TKO. Now, going into the fight, the rumor was that he was moving up to 126 just for this fight, and then he was coming back down to 122 to defend his title one more time before he moved full-time to featherweight. But now that it looks like Shakur Stevenson is going to be moving up to 130 officially, he already fought there in June. He's the champ at 126 in the WBO. The WBO announced that if Navarrete moved up after Stevenson vacated the WBO belt, and he vacated his belt at 122, then Navarrete would become the number 1 contender automatically. I think there's a good chance that happens. I think he's waiting around to see what Stevenson does. But there's also been talks about him possibly facing the monster, Naoya Inoue from Japan, and a couple other small rumors. So we're going to see what happens. Personally, I think Navarrete's moving up to 126, and I think he's going to capture that world title. I don't think the guys that are ranked at the top have what it takes. Maybe Michael Conlan can beat him, but I haven't seen Conlan fight anybody good. So right now, I think Navarrete is in a good position to become a 2-division world champion for the end of the year. We'll see. Next at number 2, dropping one spot from number 1, is the former unified champion Daniel Roman. Roman came into the year number 1 in the world. He made a mandatory defense against undefeated Mirajan Akhmadayev, and Akhmadayev upset him. Roman lost by a 12-round split decision in a good close fight. He said after the fight he wants a rematch, but it looks like Akhmadayev has a mandatory due against Ryosuke Iwasa first. What does that mean for Roman? He could just stay busy ahead of possibly facing the winner of Akhmadayev and Iwasa, because him and Akhmadayev are both promoted by Eddie Hearn, so in Matchroom, so I think there's a chance of that. Or there's a chance he could mandate a title shot against Akhmadayev or Iwasa. by taking on the #1 contender as Havanassian. So a lot of things that could go down. Wouldn't be surprised if he fought Havanassian, but personally I think he's probably gonna just stay busy and ahead of a possible rematch with Akhmadayev later in the year, or late this year or early next year. And finally, #1, undefeated and newly crowned unified world champion. He's the WBA and IBF champ, Mirajan Akhmadayev. He came out of nowhere, cashed in on his mandatory title shot against Daniel Roman in late January, on a DAZN undercard, and got a huge 12-round split decision victory to become the new unified champion. So now he's supposed to be making a mandatory defense of his title against Japan's Ryosuke Iwasa next. Nothing is confirmed with that as of yet. I'm waiting around to hear. Personally, I think that's what's going to happen for Akhmadayev in the second half of the year, and I think he beats Iwasa. But I wouldn't be surprised if they both took interim fights just to shake off some rust before heading in against each other. So see what happens. But that's the mid-year top 10 for 122-pound super bantamweight, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned. I'm going to keep rolling through these divisions. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.